If you are a professor, a coach, a trainer, a teacher, anyone that helps other people learn something, you know that one of the most important factors that determines your students' success is how motivated they are to engage with the course material and learn the content. For some students, this comes naturally. They show up every day excited and eager to learn. Other students need a little bit more help in the motivation department. So how do you, as an instructor, design course material that is engaging, that pulls students in, and provides that motivation that is so essential for the learning process? Hey everyone, and welcome back. I am the part-time economist, and in today's video, we are talking about the ARCS model of motivational design. And as I alluded to in the introduction to this video, the ARCS model is a simple, easy to understand, intuitive model that you can use to design more effective course content. So in today's video, we are going to very briefly talk about the theory of the model, but more importantly than that, we're going to be talking about practical strategies that you can use to provide motivation for your students. So before we talk about how amazing and great the ARCS model is, I actually want you to think about the flip side of the coin. Let's look at lack of motivation. What does that look like? What are the consequences? Well, a student that is not motivated to learn the material is going to have a harder time learning, obviously, right? Which is going to be bad for the student. It's also bad for us as an instructor. If our students are failing because they're not engaging with the material, that comes back on us. At an institutional level, right? If we as an institution aren't designing effective learning and graduates of our institution have a reputation for not knowing their stuff, again, that comes back on us. And even if we want to look at the classroom environment, students that aren't motivated to engage with the material could find other disruptive ways of occupying their time. So lack of motivation, not good in an academic setting. It's also not good in a business setting. If we have been hired as a corporate trainer to come in and train employees, these employees aren't motivated to learn, they don't increase their skill set, again, it's bad for the employee. It's also bad for the business, which is bad for us. If the company pays a ton of money for us to train their employees and there's no meaningful difference, you can bet they are not going to renew our contract. And even beyond that, if we don't provide effective learning, these employees are going to be limited in their ability to effectively deal with the public, which is especially important if we were supposed to be training doctors or police officers or paramedics, right? So the key thing to understand is that lack of motivation affects more than just the individual learner and has a far-ranging ring of consequences. Therefore, instructors should do their best to design material that is motivating to the students. How do we do that? Well, there's a lot of ways, but the specific one we're going to talk about today is the ARCS model. I like it because it's simple, it's effective, it's not overly confusing like some other models may be. And to give you the simple take-home message, the ARCS model says that in order for a student to apply themselves to the material, two things have to be true. They have to value the task. If they don't care about something, why would they want to do it, right? Also, they have to believe success is possible. So it's not enough for me to value being a quarterback in the NFL. I have to believe that is something I can actually do. In my case, the answer is no, which is why you don't see me out here training to be a quarterback in the NFL. Because although I think it would be valuable, I don't believe success is possible for me at this stage in my life. So, therefore, we have the ARCS model, which is a way of thinking about these two components. It says we need to grab the student's attention, we need to demonstrate relevance, we need to build their confidence, and then they have to get some kind of satisfaction from the material. So let's look at attention. Now, this model was developed by John Keller, and he breaks each of these down into different subcomponents and expands upon it in his papers. But again, we're trying to focus on the practical aspects here. So I want to share just a few specific strategies for each component. You can find more in his papers. And I'll put links to the references at the end of the video. Just know there's a lot more strategies than what I'm discussing here, but I felt these were especially useful. So if I'm trying to grab students' attention, one option that I have is to present two equally plausible scenarios, only one of which is true. So let's suppose that I am an economics professor and I want students to think about some theory we're talking about related to taxation. I could give one example and I could say, there's a lot of economists out there that say that taxes can be beneficial for an economy because it allows us to construct public services, invest in the community, and having a strong, vibrant community will draw in businesses that can grow the tax base and provide jobs. And students are going to say, yeah, that sounds reasonable. I could see how that's true. And then I present another example and I say, other economists say that these high tax rates are going to cause businesses to leave because it hurts their bottom line. They would rather go somewhere else because they don't care about a strong, vibrant community. They just care about their bottom line. And students are going to say, maybe that could be true, right? And again, the policy doesn't really matter. But what I'm doing is I'm setting up for students. I thought this was true, but then you told me this, and I kind of thought that could be true also. And now there's this conflict. I want to know what's the actual truth, right? So it grabs their attention and provides them a reason to pay attention, right? I want to know what the truth is. Also, we could state a contradictory fact. So let's suppose I am a psychology professor. And I start off, I'm teaching an entry-level college class, and I say, did you know it can actually be better for your cognition to get less sleep than more sleep? And the students are like, I don't know if that is true or not, but I like the sound of that. Staying up late, more partying, yes please, count me in, right? So I introduced this fact that could be true in some circumstances, right? Sleeping 8 hours a night might be better than sleeping 15 hours a day, but it goes against this common perception. So now the students are interested. Games, role play, anything that gets students to interact. If, again, I'm an economics professor and I say, I want you to imagine that you are a business owner. How would you as an owner react to this new tax policy, right? Again, it's helping them see, wow, this is interesting to me because I can see what's going on here. When it comes to relevance, again, there's a lot of strategies, but some that I think are really cool. Relating the material to the student's interest. So if, again, I'm going to keep going with this example here. If I am an entry-level economics professor, I can't count on the fact of a student being in my class that they're necessarily interested in economics. A lot of students are in that course not because they care about economics, because it is a requirement for some other major, right? So I have to not just assume that the material is relevant. I have to find ways. What are my students' interests? How can I make this material relevant for them? So let's talk about inflation, right? All the students are having to buy groceries. Maybe if they own a car, they're having to buy gas, right? I can talk about that in practical terms as far as how that's affecting them, whether or not they want to be an economics major. Relating the material to goals. Now, this is kind of the flip side. Maybe I'm in a higher level economics course and everyone is in this course because they want to go on to grad school in economics, right? And what I'm doing is I'm saying, look, this skill set, let's suppose I'm teaching some kind of economic modeling. This skill set is a foundational requirement for every PhD program. Oh, wow, I need to pay attention, right? If I want to go to this PhD program, I need to learn this material. Another one. Now, this is great. Show success stories. Guest speakers. Again, I'm an entry-level economics professor. I bring in a student that attended my course 5 years ago. And I say, hey everyone, this is one of my former students. They are now a chief financial officer at XYZ company, right? That demonstrates the relevance of the material. Students are saying, wow, if I want to get to this position, this corporate job, here's someone who did it. How did they do it? Well, in part by going through this course, right? So those can all help build relevance. But again, remember, it's not enough that something is interesting. Students have to believe they can succeed. So we need clearly stated goals. If I'm giving an assignment, there should be a clear path for a student to win. This doesn't mean giving them the answers, but it does mean that they know what the expectations are. They know what is required. If I tell them to write a 500-word essay, it should be a 500-word essay. I shouldn't give them a vague topic right? So describe XYZ, they write me a sentence. In their mind, that is describing it, right? If I'm wanting a specific length requirement, I should state that. The student should know what those expectations are. Appropriate difficulty. If I am teaching an introductory level course, I should be designing my course with entry-level goals in mind, asking the students to recall facts, memorize information, right? This isn't a 4,000 level course where I'm asking them to read through the peer-reviewed literature and compose an argument dissecting someone's thesis. No, design appropriate goals for the level of your course. Attribute student success to the effort, right? So recognize that link between a student working hard and getting a good grade. And then this is a big one. Let your students win, right? Students have to feel confident that they can do things. Kind of going to a military example, there's a lot of training in the military where it's not to train you. It is to select you out, to make you fail, because we only really want 5 people to succeed, right? That is an evaluation. The focus there isn't necessarily as much on training. If I'm trying to train you, I'm trying to get you to learn something, you should be able to win. I don't want you giving up. I don't want to be overly strict, right? Again, standards are important. Students should meet those standards. But this idea that I have the hardest class on campus, no one has gotten an A in my course, that is not a good thing, right? You want your students to win, consistent with meeting the standards, of course. And then lastly, satisfaction. Students need to have satisfaction about the material, of the tasks, of the assignments that you are giving them. So let students use these new skills. If I'm teaching a programming course and I teach someone how to write a program in the R programming language that solves a specific problem, why not let them use the R programming language in their future assignments? Why would I teach them how to do something in a programming language and then say, okay, now come back and use pencil and paper, right? If I'm just going to make them use pencil and paper anyway, why did I teach them R? Let students help others. This can be great because the student that is learning the material, now they get to be a role model, right? They get to help their fellow students. And again, I'm not saying cheat. I'm not saying exams, anything like that. Helping each other learn, right? Provide feedback and praise. Now, this has to be used judiciously, right? We want to praise when it is warranted, right? When it is merited, when the student knows that it's authentic, right? So keep that in mind, and then vary the reinforcement schedule, right? So sometimes a good grade is all that's needed, right? Sometimes a little bit more feedback is needed, right? If we're playing a game in class, right? Maybe a small little prize of candy or something like that, right? Again, tailor it to the specific situation. So that's an overview of the ARCS model. A couple other things I do want to share here, just the big picture. We want to be thinking, what motivates our audience, okay? It's going to be different for every audience. If I'm teaching an introductory level economics course, that motivation is going to be very different than if I am teaching a MBA level finance course. It's going to be different. So I have to find out what that audience is motivated by, and then what part of my lesson aligns with that motivation. And then, of course, we want to apply and evaluate these strategies. Is it working? Is it not working? What do we need to change? So big picture, I've listed some of these steps here. Again, you can find it in the references that I will show you at the end of the video. A couple references here. Obviously, Keller, as we talked about, the founder of the ARCS model. That paper, I do not believe, is available for free. You'll have to get it through an academic database, or this I found really interesting. He actually has on his website, he says if you can't get a hold of these papers, to email him and he might be able to help. So if you are somewhere, you don't have access to this material and you need it, you can go to arcsmodel.com and there is a way to contact the author of this theory. However, there's also a free PDF available for you, the Motivation in Instructional Design by Small in 1997. That is available completely for free through, I think it's the Department of Education. They have a website that lists a lot of papers related to educational theory. So those are the references. You can check them out. But before we close out the video, I want to leave you with this thought by John Keller. And what he's saying here is that motivational design is concerned with connecting instruction to the goals of learners, providing simulation and appropriate levels of challenge, and influencing how the learners will feel following successful goal accomplishment or even following failure. So what are the goals of our learners? What are we doing to align the material with those goals? And what kind of feedback and reinforcement are we providing? So as always, I do appreciate you watching the video. I hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you next time.